Friday. Thank you for joining me here. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for the beginning crafter. And I am here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific. And it is a time that we can relax and craft together live here for about an hour, and I work on projects from beginning to end so you can be part of the whole process along the way. And today is week 3 of the month and the third full week. And the third full week of the month, we work on the embroidery of the month. So this month is the Mandala Love. Here is a finished version of it. So that's the Mandala Love pattern. Tonight we are going to focus on French knots, all these little cute dots, and satin stitch, which is that little heart there. And we might actually do a blanket stitch around for that circle as well if we get to it tonight. So that's how far I am. Obviously, I'm not getting it done this week, so we'll have to pick this up again when we have a free day or a Finish It Friday. We're going to have the first Friday of every month. We do Finish It Friday, where we pick up something that we're not done with yet, and this might be that. So yesterday we did these lattices. We did 2 different ways of doing it, and tonight let's get a few of those French knots. I'm going to show you, if you're having trouble with French knots, I'm going to talk about the 3 things. You may be doing one of or more of these 3 things, and that's what's keeping you from the French knot, I betcha. So I'll show you what those 3 things are. I'll show you how to do a French knot and what those 3 things might be that you might be doing wrong. So we're going to get that French knot just right tonight. So if you are having trouble with that, you've come to the right place. And then after that, we will do the satin stitch, a nice little satin stitch for those little hearts. So one last thing I want to talk about tonight is tomorrow is the Koala fundraiser stitch along. So I hope you guys got your patterns and everything ready to go. The pattern is still available. The link for that's below, and it comes instantly to your email. So your receipt actually has the link to the pattern in there. So tomorrow I will show you how to transfer it if you haven't done that yet. And we will stitch the entire thing tomorrow from beginning to end. So that is the plan for tomorrow. It'll take a few hours, so it'll take several hours. I'd like to take the that sticker. I'm going to use that sticker paper. I'm going to show you how to transfer the design in other ways, but I'm going to use the actual sticker paper stuff, the sulky stick and stitch that came with the bundle, that comes with the bundle. You can still get the bundle as well. So I'm going to use that, and I'll show you how to take that off too. So it's going to be quite a few hours, I think, at least 2, probably 3 hours of stitching and hanging out. And that will start at 4 p.m. Central Time. So that's 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Pacific. And it's 9 a.m. on Sunday for Australians, so for the Eastern Australians. So they're actually the next day ahead of us, and it's Australia Day for them. So that's kind of a fun little bonus. So I'm hoping we can raise more money with that. The patterns that we are selling, that money's going to Australians for Animals, so we'll be donating that after tomorrow. And I'm hoping to get a few of your koalas that you stitch up mailed to me, and we will be sewing it into just a fun koala quilt. I'm so excited for that. My mom and I will be sewing it together, and we'll take photos and video and stuff to share with you guys. And we'll be auctioning off that quilt, and then we'll be donating that money as well. So if you want the quilt when you're done, you are welcome to bid on the auction. So I will have a newsletter going out for that once we get started with the quilt. I did email the address that you can send it to, and I think it'll be fun if we write on it a little bit. I did talk about that a little, and it's in my latest emails. just like our name and where we come from with like a permanent pen or something would be really fun. We'll do that on tomorrow, Saturday, as well. All right, you guys, let's flip around and let's work on this. This is the last night that we're gonna be showing, that we're gonna be working on the Mandala Love for the month. So, all right, I'm gonna flip you around. Okay, so I got the iPad here again, and just to see what colors we're using. We're using all red tonight, but we're gonna work on these French knots, which are all these little dots, and then the satin stitch as well, which are the filled in shape. So it's really kind of these 4 hearts here are the satin stitch. And it's a tiny little area, so that'll be like a good and nice and easy satin stitch to do. Good little space. Satin stitch is a great way to fill small little areas like that. Yay, Robin, you're sending yours. That's awesome. I'll definitely show quilt process. I'm actually hoping I can convince, I don't think I need to do much convincing, but convincing my husband, who does a lot of video work, I'm hoping that he can take some really nice looking video and edit it all together and stuff too, and we can show that with the auction quilt and stuff. I'm excited. It will be fun, and I just can't wait to see all the embroideries as well. All right. I'm getting ready. Let's get our 3 strands of thread. So this was cut from last night. I'm still working with I'm working with 3 strands. Again, you can work with however many you want. The more strands, the bigger the stitches will look. The less strands, the smaller, the thinner the stitches. I just like that 3. I've been doing it forever with the 3. I know two strands is pretty popular, but I don't know what it is with the 3. It's just a little bit thicker than the 2, so I think I kind of like that hefty look, but it's not so hefty that it's, hard to pull through the fabric. Sometimes with 6 strands and a tightly woven fabric, it can be a little bit difficult to pull through the fabric, and also a little difficult to thread. So I think 3 is just right. Okay. Oh, Patty, dang, you are far. So Patty says that she only has 2 of the little outside arcs, so I'm guessing these guys left to do. That's pretty amazing. Oh, and you're using blanket stitch. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to try around the circle here. So we're actually we're gonna do 2 of the stitches that are in the pattern, and then we'll do that bonus stitch tonight of the blanket stitch. Okay, oh, I remember what I was going to do now. So I have an extra little hoop. This is a little 4-inch hoop. I thought we'd talk about French knots here for a little bit off to the side before we dig into the actual piece. So I'm going to just get a little spot here. I'll have to cut off this little area later, but I thought it was kind of fun. Stitching a little extra spot here. Get her in the hoop. I love these tiny little hoops too. I don't have these in the shop yet, these small hoops, but they're kind of fun. They're nice to have around. I'll have to put those up. All right, so I am just taking my area erasable marking, and I'm going to just put a bunch of dots here for us, as if they're in the pattern. So this is these are our little French knots designs. We'll do that. You always used, Patty, 3 strands till this project, and I used 2 strands. Oh, and you're happy with how it looks, the 2 strands. That's awesome. Yeah, I know with the Splendid Sampler stuff, a lot of that has been with 2 strands. So I've been getting a little used to the 2 strands as well. 2 strands is great for certain stitches like the split stitch, which we haven't done a whole lot of here. We'll have to look into the split stitch at some point. It's kind of like a back stitch, but you know how back stitch you see all the little beady stitches? You can see, like, especially with the light reflecting on it, it's like a lot of little beads in a row. The split stitch will look like one line with no stitches at all. It'll just all kind of blend together. So that's kind of a fun look if that's what you're going for. Okay, so I'm gonna run through, I'm just gonna pop over here on the side, just so my thread's out of the way. And I'm going to run through how I do a French knot, and then I'll go through the couple things that you may be doing wrong and see if you're doing any one of those things. So I'm going to come up on one side of my dot, pull to the front. I find it helpful to lay it on a surface. I'm going to hold the thread with my hand here, so the thread that's coming out of the fabric, and I'm going to point my needle away from the fabric, kind of like it's in a circle, and I'm continuing that circle with the needle. So it's pointed away from the fabric, and I'm going to wrap it around that little space twice, and I'm going to hold those two wraps with my fingers. Then at that point, I am now going to point towards the fabric. Before I was pointing away, now I'm going to point towards. I'm going to go on the opposite side of that circle, of that dot. I'm going to put the needle in about halfway. You can kind of see it about halfway there. Then I'm going to let go. Pull those little loops so they're against the fabric and the needle. Then I'm going to put my thumb there, and I'm going to grab the needle from the back, and I'm going to hold those stitches until I have the thread, hold those loops until I have the thread all the way kind of pulled through. And there is our little red French knot. So, 3 things that might be keeping you from that. The first, let me know if any of you do this. The first is to come up by your dot. Ooh, did I make a knot on the back? Yeah, I did. Felt a little funny there. Let's keep pulling. That's why I have my hand back here all the time, because I can feel when something's a little off. My thread felt shorter than it should, so I checked on that. But all right, so the first thing you might be doing wrong is, instead of pointing the needle away from the fabric, you're pointing the needle towards the fabric. So let's see what that looks like. So you're going to wrap around twice, go in the loop. So even if you do everything else right, like I'm going in the opposite side of that dot, I'm going to hold down my stitches so it feels like you're doing everything right. But again, I pointed the needle towards the fabric instead of away. Here's what's going to happen. The knot just turns into a little stitch. So what's happening is, I'm not actually making a knot. I'm just, I'm pulling it through here, but there's nothing. It's just because it's pointed away, it's not making that knot shape. So it's just coming apart. So if you are having French knots that are turned into little stitches instead, that is your problem. You're pointing the needle towards the fabric instead of away. So let's do it again. So instead of pointing forward, you want to point away from the fabric. Then do your 2 loops. Hold them with your finger. Now you point towards. So you start with it pointed away, and now you point towards it. Pull those loops tight. Yeah, now we got a knot going. There we go. There we got that knot. So that might be the first thing. So let me know, you guys, if you are doing that, if you're in this situation where you're just getting little stitches. The second thing you might be doing is, let's see if I can mimic this. It doesn't work all the time, but let's see. So the second thing you might be doing is going in the exact same hole. So what I like doing is coming up on one side of the dot and then going in the other side. I want a couple threads between that, because if I go into the same exact hole, which, is tempting. It's tempting to go in that same hole just so you got like a nice clean looking thing. So I'm going right in that same exact hole. Let's see if this works. So on the surface, it may look like a good stitch, but if you get it a little weird or you pull a little too hard, your stitch is popping through to the back. So if you're having that problem, like your stitches are just popping through like it just did there, and now the problem too is now I got a knot in there too that's not going to come out. So you have to cut your thread and there's not even anything to weave in. So that's a big bummer when it pops through the hole. So what you want to do instead, let's go in that same spot. What you want to do instead of, well, let's go here because I can see that dot a little better. So instead of coming right in the middle of that dot, I like going on one side. So I always kind of start on the lower right a little bit. So I'm just kind of on the outside of that dot. All right, and then I will, point away, twist around, hold loops. Now at this point, when I point back, I will go on the other side of that dot. So I know I'm going to get like the coverage of that dot, my knot's going to go across that dot. It's going to be right in the center of that. But I do want those couple strands of floss, or of the woven fabric thread in there to block the knot from popping through. So that's the second thing you may be doing wrong. So check on that. There we go. There's our nice knot again, and it's not going to pop through. Then the last thing you may be doing wrong that can get frustrating with French knots is you're doing everything right up to this point. You're putting the needle in. You're even tightening up the threads to the needle. But now you're not holding those knots down. I really like getting my thumb in there, a finger, and holding those two loops that are on the needle. I like holding those down. If you don't, sometimes it ends up fine, but we'll see. We'll do a couple. All right, that one I went really slow and that worked fine. So you might get lucky with a few, but if you're doing a whole group of French knots, I'm going to see if I can just mimic the problem. So your loops might get a little loose here, and then as you're pulling your thread through, they get really loopy. So now these aren't that bad, and I actually think I just fixed it a little bit, but let's do another. I'm going to exaggerate it this time. Oh, maybe I'm not. But you could get French knots that look a little bit like that. There we go. So does that look familiar at all? You get these loopy loops, and they could even be bigger, just kind of on the surface like that. And from the side, it's really visible. There you go. You can really see it there. That is from not holding the thread down, and the thread is getting loose. There, see, I'm going to put my thumb right on those two loops. And I'm not going to let them loose. I'm not going to allow them to bubble up until I feel that thread go all the way through. Oops, sorry, hit the camera there. But yeah, so that's the third thing, that you can get these really loopity loops on there, and it just doesn't look as nice, and they're hard to fix. I'm going to really, really exaggerate it so you can see. So I'm not even going to tighten those there. But there you go. How about that? Does that look familiar? Yeah, you want to tighten your loops to your fabric and your needle before pulling the thread through, because that is not a pretty French knot. Oh, Pam, this is your one. This is your fail here. Yep, that's a kicker, that one. But yeah, so those are the three things that you should check. Check when you're trying to do a French knot. Are you doing any of those three things? So the first was where you're just making stitches. that was when you point the needle towards instead of away. The second was you pop the thread right through somewhere in there. You went in the exact same hole as you come up in, and then you get that knot on the back, which is still hanging out on my back here. And then the third, you're just not holding down your threads against the fabric and the needle, and you're getting a loop-de-loops there. So yeah. So those are the things. All right, I'm going to trim this off, and we are going to do our real French knots on the real piece here. But yeah, I mean, these all feel very familiar to me. It took me a while to figure out, oh, that's what I'm doing wrong there. I'm tempted to just keep that in the piece. I didn't weave in the ends or anything, but you know, they are kind of knots. They'll stay there. All right, so I still have some fabric. You can't get enough reminders of those French knots. I know, it's like you get one step down, but then you forget like another one. It really is those three things. If you can remember those three things to do, you're going to be good to go. 3 things to avoid. All right, I just have a little bit of thread left here. French knots do kind of take a bit of thread because you're jumping around a bit. I think I'm going to weave in, or let's do an area near that we've done. So I think I'm going to weave in the backs of these stitches, and then we'll get these little French knots. Oh, this guy up here too. Oh, this guy, this is actually red. So we could do a couple French knots and then do these loops and then do the rest. I don't know if I have enough thread for all that, but we'll see what we get. We'll start here. On the real piece again. Yeah, just doing those few knots took up quite a bit of thread. That little lattice that we did might have taken up the least amount of thread last night. All right, that third time pretty much locks it in place. Oh, dang, Christy, I'd love to see that. Yeah, throw that up in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group if you want. I'd like to do a embroidery sometime where there are a ton of French knots like close together. I typically like doing, if I can, if it makes sense, I like doing the French knots last in a project. So typically what I'm doing now, doing all these French knots right now, I would have waited. I would have waited probably towards the end to do all of these French knots. And the reason for that is I don't want my stitching to get caught. So like if I have a French knot here and I'm stitching some other stitch over here, there's a tendency that it'll get caught on that stitch while you're trying to do the other stitch, right? And it's like, ah, dang, I got it stuck on another French knot. So I find that annoying. That's why I don't like knots on the back. I don't like having to pay attention to that. So that's why I try and do my French knots last. But in a case like this, you might still want to work in area by area. So one thing to think about though when you're planning out a piece. All right. Oh, this bright red's going to be pretty here. All right, so there's my first one. I'm going to just continue. I'm coming up on one side of that dot. I do like setting it down because you almost need 3 hands to do a French knot. If you're holding a hoop and the needle and this, it's tough. So I set it down on a surface. You can set it on your lap. All right, I pointed my needle away. Got those 2 loops. Now I'm pointing towards. Let's go on the other side of that dot. And at that point, I'm halfway through with the needle. Now I'm going to pull those loops close to the surface. So I've seen people just hold this tight as they pull their thread through, and that seems to work for them, but I don't know. I like getting my finger right up in there, holding those loops in place. There we go. There's our second little one. I think let's do this one. And then I'm gonna I think I'm gonna jump up here. So no, so here's a case again where I'm gonna actually do these lazy daisies first, and then I'll do that French knot last, just so that my French knot isn't in the way while I try and do all these lazy daisies. And just so I don't have a jump from here to there, even though that's a tiny, tiny jump, I'm gonna just tuck them underneath the backs of stitches that are already there. And then we'll do this. So all right, let's get these lazy daisy stitches. We did those two days ago. Yeah, third hand for embroidery. That wouldn't be half bad of a thing. Oh my gosh, I don't, now that I've stitched this first one, I'm pretty sure I don't have enough thread for all of this. Let's see if we can get it. I might only end up with three of these little lazy daisies. Well, if that's the case, I will weave in the ends up here, and we'll work on that satin stitch next with the next piece of thread. Oh gosh, yeah. I don't think we got it. I think this is the last stitch. Oh, that's annoying. Yep, I'm gonna stop. So there we go. So much for a bunch of French knots. I was thinking I'd get this, do this French knot, come back around here, I'd jump and do these, and we could keep going. But that's what I get, I suppose. I don't have that endless thread. Never-ending spool on the end of my needle. That would be pretty cool. Wonder how that would work. That'd be an invention. All right. That's locked in place. All right, we do have that other strand of 3 from earlier, so that's good. I can just thread that right away. Next, let's do that satin stitch. So there's one main idea that you want to do with a satin stitch. So let's do this satin stitch right here. I'm going to weave in the ends first, just to get ourselves set up. So again, I'm doing this instead of tying a knot, since I don't want any knots on the back. I want my thread to get caught on anything. I think the back still looks kind of fun. I mean, it does look weird, right? Because it's the back, but it's not, it doesn't feel too messy. It doesn't feel like my finger's gonna get caught on anything. Because I mean, this is a tea towel. I'm gonna use this for real probably in the kitchen. So, you know, it's gonna be washed. It's going to be handled quite a bit. So I don't want a lot of jumping around. Okay. All right, we're ready to go. So let's do this. Ooh, hold on a sec. Get all this bulky fabric out of the way. All right. So this is what we're going to satin stitch right now, that little itty bitty heart. So you can tell just by my finger that it is very small. That's a great size. I mean, this is a small but very nice size for a satin stitch. You don't want big, huge satin stitches like that big, because then you're going from one side to the other. So that is a big loop. Kind of how this is a big stitch from here to there, but with this lattice, we have it held down by all these other stitches. In satin stitch, we don't have that. So filling it with some smaller spaces is kind of a better use. So the one thing you want to do with satin stitch is you're always going to always start on the same side. You're never going to go like a ladder. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go up here, and then I'm going to come back around, and then start at the same place, and then back. So I'm always going to start on this side and end on this side. I'm never going to go dot, 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 dot. I'm always going to go like looping around and around and around. So that'll make sense in a sec. I think I'm going to start with funny shapes like this. I do like starting on a point that makes sense. So instead of starting right on the left edge, I'm just going to start in the middle where I have the bottom of the heart, where I want to make sure is a nice point, and I have like this little part of the heart here as well. So that's going to be my first stitch. So now instead of going right here and coming back down and then here and back up and here and back down, we are going to come all the way down to here again and go up. And then we're going to come all the way down to here again and then up. So we're always going down from the bottom and then up, or, one way or the other, just staying the same as how you started. And I'm going to go just a couple threads away from this first hole. And that's actually why we don't want to, we ended up here. That's why I don't want to go right here, because it's going to be too close. And what's going to happen is we are going to tear that one little thread that it's being held by, versus if we go all the way down to the bottom, then it's being held by a lot of fabric. So there, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm just like a thread or so away. And then straight up to where it hits the next part of the line there. And again, only a little bit away from our starting point. There we go. The other thing, if you go from one side to the other like this, your stitches lay flatter as well and just look nice and pretty. And they look satiny. That's why it's called the satin stitch. And we'll see that a little bit when we're done here. It'll just look like a shiny, shiny heart. If you really want to get hardcore with your satin stitch, you'll switch to one strand of floss. So right now we are using 3, and it looks fine. But we did a test of this too. We did a little video of this where we tested different strands of floss for satin stitch. And dang, did that one strand of floss look fancy. It looked just slick and shiny, and all the strands lined up all pretty. But holy cow, it took long. It took a lot longer. All right, I think that's pretty good. I think that's good for that side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stay on the bottom. I'm going from bottom to top, but I'm going to just pick up on the other side of the half. And you could start on one side and then work your way forward. You could even do the satin stitch from top to bottom if you wanted a different look. But for these hearts in particular, I like starting in the middle, getting that middle point all lined up perfect. And the rest can kind of fall in place after that. Ooh, but it's just like a little hefty little sparkle in this, I think. In this design, just a little bitty heart. All right, I think we should do at least one more stitch, maybe 2, but I think this one might be it. Yep, I don't think it needs any more. But yeah, look, it's just cute. So here is it up close. You can see like the light is hitting it all at the same way, so it does look like one kind of block of satin. Especially if you compare it like to this chain stitch next to it. There's a lot of bumps, a lot of stuff happening. Same with this, the back stitch, all these little bumps. In satin stitch, you don't have any of that. You just have that nice, shiny, flat look there. So it's just a nice little pop, I think. All right, so that's the satin stitch. I think I have plenty of thread here. Why don't we jump down here and do this blanket stitch? I have kind of 2 thoughts on a way to do this, but I think we'll do a blanket stitch, and then we'll do like a back stitch on the outside here. think that'll probably be the best way of doing it. Because what I could do, if you guys know blanket stitch, we'll get to in a sec, but I'm just trying to think it through in my head. No, like in the instructions, I just use back stitch, or I just like stitch every one of these stitches, kind of like how we did this. But it was suggested that maybe we do this as a blanket stitch. But a blanket stitch will only take care of one of these lines and all the vertical lines. It won't take care of this line, this circle. But I was thinking we could do a blanket stitch and then skip one of these lines. So it'll be kind of like we're skipping every other line. And then we could do a blanket stitch the opposite direction for the bottom one and then pick up all the rest of the lines. Might be a kind of a silly, fun way of doing it. But I think for this one, let's just do every single one as a blanket stitch, and then we'll do a back stitch for the inside. So that'll all make sense in a moment here. I'm just thinking out loud on how to manage this. So I'm going to just jump down kind of to that area. So now we'll have to leap a little bit. Okay. So I think this is how we're going to start. So I'm going to start at the top of one of these like spokes, I suppose. We're going to go on this outer circle. Okay? So the outer circle, and I'm going to come up at the top of one of these spokes. So I'm going to hold this with my thumb just away from the circle, but kind of in the shape of the circle. So I'm not going to hold it on this side. I want to hold it on. All right, we're back. All right, so I'm gonna flip you guys around again, and we will try and get this done. I'm gonna have to hold on. I'm gonna have to like cool the house down or something. Time to do some research again. Why is the phone overheating? It's silly. So, all right, you guys. I'm glad you stuck with me here. Hopefully we'll be good to go for a little longer yet. We'll see how it goes. But again, I'm coming up on that spoke. And then I'm going to put the needle down on the spoke next to it. So now I'm on the inner circle. I'm on the spoke next to it. The second spoke. And this is almost like a chain stitch. It's like a chain stitch with the base separated. So here's kind of our loop. Now I'm going to come back up to start the next stitch and finish this stitch. I'm going to come back up on the top of the spoke, kind of like how I was here, but the next spoke over. The same spoke as where I came up on here. So I'm going to pull on there, and the act of having this thread here is going to catch that loop. And there we go. So it's kind of like a chain stitch, but these 2 points just aren't together. And I'm not actually going to tack down this stitch. I am just going to start the next stitch. So let's hold this up again, away from that circle. And then I'm going to go down in that next spoke, the next spoke over, and then up at the top of that spoke. My needle is coming up within that circle. And as I pull, it is going to catch that edge again. And there we go. We have two blanket stitches there. I can you can see that when I pull on them, they're not quite straight. I can pull on it a little bit more to tighten up that loop. There we go. Now it's a bit straighter. That's in a frozen veggie bag on the phone as the phone stand. Oh my gosh. Yes, Sylvia, that's a great way of thinking about it. They're like L's, like the letter L, over and over and over again. There we go. And I like just pulling it a little extra to get it straight. And we're good to go. You can kind of manipulate it with your fingers a little bit if it is acting up. So lots of little blankety stitches here. So the fun thing about a blanket stitch is you can do it within a piece like this, how we're doing, like, right in the middle of a piece. But what a lot of people like doing is doing a blanket stitch around the edge of a fabric. Like we could actually do a blanket stitch around this edge and we'd have this pretty little decorative stitch all the way across. It looks like this. It would just be on the, there wouldn't be any fabric here. It would be just right on the edge. That would be pretty adorable. But yeah, so blanket stitch is a pretty flexible stitch. And this is actually one of those stitches, like the running stitch and really the chain stitch too, that works really well in the sewing method. So I've just been doing the stabbing method, and my fabric's not very loose here, but if I go down and up in the same motion, oh, and I actually can't get it. Let's see if I can force this up. My fabric's just not loose enough. But there we go. If I can go in and out like that, it's a little difficult, I think, with this Fabricelli. But then I can actually just tuck this back behind the needle. Again, it's just not loose enough here. But there we go. So I've tucked it behind the needle, and then I can pull up too, and that's an easy way to do it. That's actually probably, if you have your fabric a little looser, a lot easier and quicker for the blanket stitches to go in and out in the same motion versus the stabbing method that I'm doing. But I still like it. I like the stabbing method. I like the control of it. I think going vertically up and down with your needle that you can do with the stabbing method, I think it's just a little more accurate, and I like it. But that sewing method, I think for this really would be quick. Oh, this is looking pretty. Pretty. So then, we still have these bottom stitches. I think for that, I'm just going to do a back stitch all the way around. But what I was saying I could do earlier is I could, in theory, skip a notch and go up and down here, and then I'd have a notch left over. And then I could do a blanket stitch on the inside as well. So I'd be trading off each stitch, which would have been kind of fun. But I think these stitches are smaller. I think this will appear more circular than if those stitches are spread apart. But it is looking awfully pretty, like little eyelashes almost. So I'm a little worried about our camera here getting overheated tomorrow when we're stitching for a long period of time with the koala fundraiser. But if it does, I will just come back in right away. So if I do go out, if someone just texts that I will be back soon, then that would be good. But I'm hoping that it won't do that tomorrow. I'm excited to stitch those koalas. That'll be fun. Alright. Alright, here I didn't go in the middle, so I gotta just put that fabric around, thread around. Kind of getting awkward. There we go. I like being able to hold it here with my thumb so I can see that loop. So it's just a matter of getting my hand comfortable. And I do not think we are going to finish this blanket stitch either with this thread. This is a run out of thread day. Oh well. We'll have to get some more. I'll get more red out and we'll try and finish this little circle, I'm hoping. Yeah, and just another reminder, for the koala, it's not the same time tomorrow for the stitch along. It's not the same time as our normal on our normal time. It is earlier. It's like 4.5 hours earlier. So we'll be doing it more in the late afternoon versus evening. At least for me, for Central Time here. And that's just because it is going to take longer to do, because we're going to stitch the whole koala all in one sitting and transfer it and all that too. And then if you're in Australia, then it's kind of a more decent time, I think. So we'll all be able to get on it a little bit. Oh, your Alexa is set to alert you. That's awesome, Gretchen. Oops, sorry, I said it out loud. She who must not be named. We renamed it to ECHO here. Because the normal she who must not be named name, it sounds too much like Alyssa. So it kept going off. So that, and you only get 3 choices. It either has to be the Alexa, or it has to be Echo, which is what ours is, or it has to be computer. And we deal with computers all day long, every day, so having it be called computer, that was not going to work. Oh, I'm going to be like 3 freaking stitches shy or something on this again. Boo! Oh, but I am really loving this look. Look how pretty that is. It has that nice little arch on the outside. I think this is, oops, and I lost my thread there too. Oh, yay! Nada, you got your package. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, am I going to get these stitches? It would be great if I could get all these. There's so many of these little blanket stitches. I'm not actually sure I've done a blanket stitch this little before. I'm used to doing it on the edges of things and just a little bit bigger, but just this tiny little eyelashy one. I mean, it's pretty. I like it. I think I'm going to do this for the other ones, these outside bits as well. It adds another extra little bit of texture too, I think. A little extra bit of interest. Oh my gosh, can I get these 3? I'm going to force these out. If I have barely any thread to weave in the ends, I'm gonna go that route, because I want to have enough here. Almost there. Okay, and now this last one, I am actually going to tuck it under. I'm going to tuck it under this first stitch, because then it will look like all the other stitches. You won't be able to tell where you started or stopped. There, and then we'll go in that point. There. Great! We did it! And we have enough thread. Okay, that is so pretty. I love the blanket stitch there. I almost don't want to stitch anything on the inside, but I think we do need something on the inside there yet. So we'll just do a back stitch for the inside. And we also need to get a little French knot in there as well. Maybe we'll do that quick here. Maybe I think I have enough for a French knot. We'll skip to the middle here, and we'll end where we started tonight, I think. We'll end with this one little French knot in the middle. All right, so I'm going to come up on one side of that dot with the needle. There we go. Just enough thread for a French knot. French knots are actually kind of difficult when you don't have that, like when you have this much thread. This isn't that much thread, because it's hard to get that loop and your needle facing the right direction, but let's do it. All right, pointing away from the fabric, and we're going to wrap those 2 loops. I'm going to hold them there with my finger while I point towards the fabric, and let's poke it on the other side of that dot. So a different spot. Okay, I'm halfway in with the needle, and I'm going to pull that tight. And I can't get my thumb there, but I can get my fingers. So I'm just going to hold those loops while I pull through. And there we go. I'm going to shift that around a little bit, but let's weave in the ends quick. Just enough thread for that. Yay! We got this nice back going. All right, here we go. Oop, there we go. And let's snip that. Okay, so there we are. So if it's not perfectly in the middle, you can just kind of nudge it over that spot again. There we go. That's looking okay. Now we're more in the middle. There, ending with a nice little French knot. Not too shabby. Oh, so we're getting a breath of what this might look like. But man, in 5 hours, you know, really, this is the 5th hour that we've worked on it. 1 hour every week or every day this week. I mean, you know, we're putzing around a little bit, you know, doing these other French knots and stuff. But we only really got that much, so this is like a 15 to 20 hour project, really, maybe. Probably 15. I think I'm probably about a third of the way through this. And if I just sat down and started stitching, I think we'd get it going a little bit faster. But definitely a good start. We got a feeling of it all, I think. And now we'll just have to keep going. So that's awesome. Let's even take it out of the hoop and see what it's kind of looking like. Then I'll flip you guys around and we'll take a look. And I'll leave it out of the hoop until we work on it again as well. Okay, I'm going to flip you around. Okay, hello. All right, here we go. So there is the towel so far. Oh, it's going to be cute. I like that red. I'm going to fold it quick as if it's on like the towel loop thing. So there we go. It would be like this. I think that's pretty. So I kind of just folded it in thirds. We throw our towels over like the oven handle, and I think this will be nice. I like the height. I like that we left a little bit of an edge there. Cool, fancy. Awesome. So it's been really fun to see your guys' your mandalas popping up in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group, and the different colors and the different towels. It's just really, really fun. So keep sharing in there. I definitely want to see your progress as you finish them up. And yeah, koala stitch along tomorrow. So I am so excited to work on that little koala. I actually have to go to the office to get supplies, so I'll be getting up early and doing that. And yeah, let me know in the Penguin Fish page here, or in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group. Let me know if there's anything that you want to make sure that I show you with that koala, just so I don't forget anything, like if there's anything special, like how did I trace that or something like that, note that there, and I'll take a look at that. And yeah, we are gonna make some cute little guys tomorrow. I am so excited. So spread the word if you can. I think I saw some of you guys talking about that. That is amazing. I'm hoping we get some new people that have not embroidered before, and we can help them along. I think this is going to be a good embroidery pattern if you haven't done any embroidery yet. It's going to be simple. We're going to do the whole thing. I mean, if you're a beginner, you might not get completely done, but the video will go up on YouTube. So there will be a replay of the koala if you want to watch it again or work on it some more if you didn't get a certain part done. So awesome, you guys. I will see you tomorrow, or a few of you, I hope, on tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, we'll get stitching. And I'll get this up on YouTube tonight, so it'll be up in a half hour or so to Penguin and Fish Movies on YouTube. So have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night.